You turn the key. Click, click, click. The dashboard lights are dim. It's the worst sound a car owner can hear. You panic. You catch a ride to the nearest auto parts store and buy whatever generic plastic box the guy hands you. Stop doing that. The car battery market is a minefield. Buy the wrong battery today, and you aren't just wasting $200. You are guaranteeing you'll be stranded again in exactly 18 months. Welcome back to Brilliant Car Care. Today, I am exposing 5 battery brands and tiers you must avoid at all costs. But I won't leave you hanging. I'll also show you 3 absolute workhorses that will actually survive brutal winters, scorching summers, and all the heavy electronics in your vehicle. You need to understand the biggest secret in the battery world. Look at the wall of batteries in a parts store. You see dozens of brands, different colors, aggressive animal logos. It looks like 30 different companies are competing for your money. It's mostly an illusion. In North America, almost every lead-acid car battery on the shelf is manufactured by just 3 massive companies: Clarios, East Penn Manufacturing, and Stryton Energy. That's it. They build the batteries, and retail stores slap their own stickers on them and mark up the price. Now, you might think, if they are all made in the same 3 factories, shouldn't they all be the exact same quality? Absolutely not. Number 1 on the avoid list isn't just one brand, but an entire tier of batteries that traps thousands of drivers every day. I'm talking about the bottom-tier economy or value lines sold at major auto parts chains. When your bank account is low, seeing a battery for $90 feels like a lifesaver, but buying one of these is a false economy. Inside a car battery are heavy lead plates suspended in acid. Because lead is expensive, manufacturers make the plates inside these economy batteries paper thin to keep costs down. Why does that matter? Vibration. Every time you drive over a pothole or idle your engine, your battery vibrates. Because the plates in these cheap batteries are so thin, they literally shake apart, crack, and drop lead debris into the bottom of the casing, causing a dead short. Skip the economy tier entirely. Number 2 is going to make some old-school gearheads angry. Be very cautious about buying modern Optima batteries, specifically the red top and yellow top models. 15 years ago, Optima was the undisputed king of the road. They use a spiral-wound cell design instead of flat plates, making them virtually indestructible. But things change. Years ago, the parent company moved production facilities. Immediately, the mechanic community noticed an almost massive drop in long-term reliability. If you walk into any shop today, you will hear stories of modern Optimas failing to hold a charge after just 18 to 24 months. The main issue here is value. You are paying top-tier premium prices, sometimes pushing $300, for a battery that simply does not deliver the bulletproof lifespan it used to. For that price, there are much better flat-plate AGM batteries right now. Number 3 on the avoid list is the infamous reconditioned or refurbished battery. You usually find these at small independent corner shops or listed online. They'll sell you a battery for $40 and claim it's professionally reconditioned. Let me put my mechanic hat on and explain why this is throwing your money in the garbage. When a standard lead-acid battery dies of old age, it undergoes a chemical process called sulfation. Lead sulfate crystals permanently harden onto the internal plates, choking off its ability to hold a charge. You cannot magically reverse heavy sulfation. What these shady shops do is drain the old acid, pour in fresh acid, blast it on a charger to knock off a tiny bit of crust, and spray paint the case so it looks shiny and new. It might test fine for exactly 1 week, but the underlying structural integrity is compromised. Putting a used battery in your daily driver is like putting a Band-Aid on a broken leg. Worse, if that weak battery puts too much strain on your car's electrical system, your alternator will have to work overtime to keep it alive. You're going to end up replacing a $500 alternator just because you tried to save $60 on a zombie battery. Don't risk it. Brand to avoid. Number 4, white label online batteries. With the internet dominating how we buy parts, we are seeing a flood of no-name batteries with wild claims. You'll see aggressive names claiming astronomical cold cranking amps at half the price of a real store. Here is the harsh reality of buying heavy batteries through the mail from random overseas sellers. First, the shipping process is brutal. Even if it survives without leaking toxic acid, the internal lead plates have been knocked around and dropped for thousands of miles. Internal plate fractures are incredibly common. Second, the warranty is completely useless. If a store-bought battery dies, you drive down the street and they hand you a new one. If your internet battery dies in January, what are you going to do? Pay $80 in hazardous shipping fees to mail a heavy box back to a ghost company? Never buy your primary starting battery from an unrecognizable brand online. And that brings us to number 5 on the avoid list. The standard, base-level replacement batteries sold directly at dealership parts counters. The original battery that came in your car from the factory is usually excellent. Manufacturers spend a lot to make sure that initial battery lasts the bumper-to-bumper warranty. But when that original battery dies, and you go back to the dealership parts counter for a replacement, that is where the trap gets sprung. Your dealership replacement battery was made by one of the big three manufacturers we talked about earlier, slapped with an OEM sticker and marked up 40% just for the logo. You are paying a massive dealership tax for a standard flooded lead-acid battery. You can walk across the street to an auto parts store and buy the exact same internal battery, or an even better upgraded AGM battery for significantly less money. Stop overpaying for the dealership badge. Okay, before I give you the 3 powerhouse batteries that you should buy, I need to teach you 2 quick, brilliant car care secrets. First, watch out for the warranty trap. When a battery says 3-year warranty, read the fine print. Does it say free replacement or pro-rated? Free replacement means if it dies in month 35, they hand you a brand new battery for $0. Pro-rated means they say you used up most of the battery's life, so they will give you $8 off your next purchase. Always demand a battery with a strict, free replacement warranty. Second, never buy a dusty battery. Car batteries slowly die just sitting on the shelf. Check the date code. Look for a little round sticker melted into the plastic case. It usually has a letter and a number. The letter is the month. A means January. B means February. C means March. The number is 5, so C26 means March 2026. If the battery is more than 6 months old, leave it there. Alright, let's talk about what actually works. The first brand you should absolutely look for is Interstate, specifically their higher-end MTZ or AGM lines. If you ask 10 independent mechanics what battery they trust the most, probably 8 of them are going to say Interstate. They are insanely reliable. But the real reason they are top of the list is their distribution network. Interstate has a legendary route truck system. They constantly run local trucks to auto shops, dealerships, and big box stores, swapping out old stock for fresh stock. Because of this high turnover rate, when you buy an Interstate, you are almost guaranteed to be getting a fresh battery from the factory. It is one of the safest, smartest purchases you can make for your vehicle. Number 2 on the buy list might actually shock you. I am talking about the EverStart Max sold at Walmart. Didn't I just tell you to avoid the cheap store brands? Yes, avoid the bottom-tier value line. But the EverStart Max, the one with the yellow case, is an entirely different beast. Depending on your region, the EverStart Max is manufactured by Clarios or East Penn, the exact same companies building the ultra-expensive batteries at the dedicated parts stores. It performs incredibly well in extreme weather testing, and it costs significantly less than a comparable battery down the street. But the real reason this battery makes the best list is the warranty loophole. The EverStart Max comes with a fantastic 3-year free replacement warranty. If your battery dies on a road trip at 10 p.m. on a Sunday night, your local mechanic is closed. The auto parts store is closed. But guess what is open? Walmart. You walk in, hand them the dead battery, and they hand you a brand new one. No questions asked. For the extreme convenience, it is a brilliant purchase. And finally, the number 3 brands to buy. If you want the undisputed heavyweight champion of car batteries, you need to buy an Odyssey Extreme. Remember when I said Optima fell off? Odyssey picked up the crown. These are premium AGM, absorbent glass matte batteries. Most cheaper batteries use recycled lead, which has impurities that cause the battery to degrade from the inside out. Odyssey uses 99.99% pure virgin lead. Because the lead is pure, they can pack the internal plates much tighter. That means you get an absurd amount of cold cranking amps and a massive reserve capacity. If you physically pick up an Odyssey battery, it weighs significantly more than a standard battery. That weight is pure lead, and in the battery world, weight equals life. Yes, an Odyssey Extreme will cost you a pretty penny. It is an expensive investment. But while your neighbor is replacing his cheap battery every 2 years, an Odyssey can easily last 6, 8, or even 10 years if your electrical system is healthy. It is the definition of buy once, cry once. If you only drive your car 2 miles a day, your alternator never has enough time to fully recharge the battery. Take your car on the highway for 20 minutes once a week. Keep your battery terminals clean and free of that blue, fuzzy corrosion. That corrosion literally chokes off the electrical current, making a perfectly good battery act completely dead. And if you park your car for weeks at a time, spend $30 on a smart trickle charger to keep it topped off. If you take care of a good battery, it will never leave you stranded. I want to hear from you guys down in the comments. What is the absolute worst battery you've ever bought? And what is the longest a battery has ever lasted you? Let's get a conversation going down there. If this video saved you from making a bad purchase, hit that like button. It really helps the channel out. Make sure you subscribe to Brilliant Car Care so you don't miss our next deep dive on how to keep your car running forever without getting ripped off. Until next time, stay safe out on the road, keep those terminals clean, and I'll see you in the next one.